I'm having the weirdest sense of deja vu, and I'm having the weirdest sense of Dijon mustard, and I relish the thought of coming up with more condiment jokes. Deja vu, deja vu, deja vu, Dijon mustard. Look, it's just it's a weird case of deja vu. It's Groundhog Day mixed with every horror cliche you could ask for, and a fairly likable cast. And that's pretty much sums up Happy Death Day, directed by Christopher Landon, who is the same director as Paranormal Activity: The Marked Ones and Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which was okay. I mean, in Paranormal Activity: The Marked Ones, it was a weird spin-off. It actually really, I didn't quite understand why that happened, even though the cast was fine and I liked the setting and everything, the enclosed setting with the apartment complex. But it was a little silly, as are any of the Paranormal Activity movies. But Happy Death Day, excuse me, a young girl named Tree, played by Jessica Roth or Roth, however you say her last name. There's an E at the end, so I'm not sure if the E is silent. She's the blonde that keeps dying and keeps dying. And there's this babyface killer that the babyface is somehow the mask of the mascot for a college that's in Louisiana. I mean, it figures it's something that stupid and inbred looking would take place in Louisiana. All due respect to my friends that live in Louisiana. Nothing against you guys. I've just heard some bad horror stories, as opposed to good horror stories, about Louisiana. But there's some college here. I don't even know if they ever named the college, and if they did, I just couldn't be asked to really pay attention. But you got Jessica playing Tree. You got her roommate, the one offering the cupcake, happy birthday. Ruby Modine, who I actually think, who's in Shameless, which I haven't watched. I've actually been meaning to. She actually, I think, maybe has the best future out of this. Nobody's really bad in this movie. I mean, it's written by a guy who helped with the story, or came up with the entire story for Man of the House, that Tommy Lee Jones comedy that I think was a comedy, but it wasn't funny at all. And he came up with that, and he wrote a few episodes between 93 and 96 of the 5-year run of the X-Men animated series that was on Fox, which is actually really fun. It's one of those fond memories I have as a kid. And the story was basic, it was simple. The problem is the concept was a little unique, where, okay, she has to figure out who her killer is and stop this whole thing. Can she do it? Can she do it? Well, the problem is they gave the character Tree at first about as much personality as a little sapling. Now, that's not faulting Jessica, who did fine with the role. She certainly wasn't bad, and again, Lori, played by Ruby, I thought was fine. I actually think as far as her look and everything, she has the brightest future out of anybody in this cast. And you got the stereotypical bitchy girl, played by Rachel Matthews, who, I guess it was her first role, at least her first role, major role. Good for her, she played just fine. Hopefully she can grow and, get better roles and everything. Israel Broussard, at least I hope I got that right, played Carter. He was the guy in the trailer where, Tree wakes up, the blonde wakes up in the dorm room, has no idea where she is. He's the guy, oh, hey, you're up, I folded your pants for you, and this kind of stuff. It was acceptable, and I mean, it's very stereotypical. It's very one note, even though everybody plays their roles just fine. It's certainly not the worst movie in the world. But the problem is I called it 5 minutes in. 5 minutes in who the killer was. And I'm going to do this here in just a minute, or in just a few seconds, to tell you spoilers. So, because, sorry, fuck it. I mean, it's pretty obvious who it is. Everybody plays their roles fine. There's a professor, of course, that Tree is sleeping with, even though the professor has a wife. Scandalous, because big shock. And the college seems to be right next to a hospital, which is odd. I mean, it's like there's no coordination of this stuff at all. And they try to throw a side plot with this one serial killer in. They try to throw it in where he's murdered 6 college girls, and could he be the killer and this kind of stuff. But again, spoilers. It's the roommate that says, "Happy birthday." Because she didn't like that Tree was making eyes at a guy that she liked, and because she thought she was a dumb bitch. That's your big reveal as a killer. I mean, after all that build and everything, and I mean, some good build. I mean, you don't necessarily feel bad for anybody in the movie, and the PG-13 rating does not help this at all. You need this to be play with a good amount, not a huge amount of gore. We don't need to go like It, the It remake style, with all the gore and everything, and an arm getting ripped off right in the beginning. Whoops, sorry, spoilers, but the PG-13 rating did not help. Now, I'm not going to fault the director, I'm not going to fault the creators, I'm not going to fault the writer, I'm not going to fault any of that. This has the feel of being a movie that was was pretty edited as far as gore. Now, it did have some blood, because you can have blood in a PG-13 movie. You can get away with a lot more in a PG-13 movie. It does do at least a decent job of, okay, if you got this day to live and it's, of course, Tree's birthday, and there's a subplot with her mother and this kind of stuff. Her mother died, her mother and her shared the same birthday. And the dad, of course, Tree and her dad are a bit estranged because the mother died. That's understandable. And they kind of throw that. See, the movie has the makings of being something a little better than it is. Is it the worst horror movie I've ever seen? No. I mean, Friend Request was one of the worst horror movies I've seen. And I actually have a review up of that if you'd like to see it. It was from a couple weeks ago. It wasn't, well, actually, it was from about 3 weeks ago. It certainly wasn't bad. This Happy Death Day Friend Request was horrible, and that's nothing against the cast. The movie was just horribly, it was just ass. But Happy Death Day, the problem is too much of it's predictable. I mean, again, I figured out who the killer was right away. I figured out who the killer was right away. And that doesn't even really take the starch out of it, because I figured out plenty of movies where I figured out who the killer was right away. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter as long as it was fun. The problem is the movie wasn't all that fun. Now, was it terrible? No. No, it was not terrible. It had its moments. It had a couple jump scares, but they were cheesy jump scares. I think I honest to God maybe jumped once, and that was only because, okay, it hit the right music with the right mood and everything. But no, it's really, really cheesy. And not that you would have expected a movie titled Happy Death Day to be anything but cheesy. But again, everybody plays their roles just fine. A lot of them, pretty much all of them, are very one note. They don't flesh out a ton of characters, though you do get a feel for Tree and Carter as a bond sort of grows. And Tree does do a little bit of growing up, because you learn, as she says in the movie at some point, after she's died a few times. I wouldn't say through no fault of her own, because the character isn't exactly the brightest person in the world. You figure the more you live the same day, the more you figure out who you are, or something like that. A lot of the dialogue's really not memorable. Though there is this one line that Tree says to Carter, "Stop looking at me like I took a dump on your mom's head." And I'm like, okay, that's a new one. I hadn't heard that one before. I don't know how this movie kept getting all the publicity it did, though, because it's a very basic horror movie. The idea around it certainly isn't that bad. I've heard worse, but mixing Groundhog Day with every single horror cliche, I don't know. It's just, it runs out of steam at the end. It has some times where it's like, as she's reliving the same day through different scenarios and stuff like that, it sort of works. There are a few days or sequences that are a little more entertaining. But the problem is again, when I figured out who the killer was, and I was like, they keep throwing stuff, and I go, hey, I'm sticking with who I think it is. I mean, I narrowed down to 3 people at first, and I was like, no, it's the roommate. And again, sorry if you're watching to this point, you say I didn't do spoilers. I did this, so you can't say that I didn't warn you. Yeah, sorry. Happy Death Day. I'm not saying don't watch it. You could use a pass if you would like. This seems strictly to be a rental, though. But if you want, if you got a girlfriend, guys or girls, if you got a significant other, especially if you got a girlfriend or if you got somebody, if you're dating somebody that gets scared by stuff and you want them to cling on to you and stuff like that, or get the adrenaline pumping and everything, so you can have sex in the theater. Like people, I've had to break up people in the theater having sex when I worked there for about 6 years. It was disturbing. Anyway, if you want to get a little bit of an adrenaline rush, it's fine. The problem is the movie isn't nearly as scary as it tries to be, or as it thinks it is. For a movie titled Happy Death Day, it's more like Happy Drama Day, because it almost strikes you as more of a drama play at times. But still within the confines of what it is. Is it the worst thing? No, but far from the best. Wish the cast all the best though. I hope the cast does well. I do, especially girl playing Tree, Jessica Roth. I thought she was fine. Israel Broussard, I thought was fine. Ruby Modine, I think probably has the brightest future. But the girl playing Danielle, Rachel, I think she did okay. You know, hopefully everybody can get some better roles out of this. It was an acceptable movie. It wasn't anything great. Not telling you not to watch it, but do not lower your expectations. Because I mean, again, if you're watching it at this point, especially when I put spoilers in the title, it's gonna be it. You obviously know who the killer is, and tell me if you figured out who it was right away or not. Anyway, do you think that it was a good movie? Do you think it was a cheesy movie? Do you think it was an absolute shitfest? Again, I thought it was acceptable. What do you guys think? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Aussie with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.